Peacemaker, Season 1, HBO Max's newest sitcom. Was it good? I'm Ravi, joined by...
I'm Michael Lehrman.
And I'm Arjuna Ramgopal.
And this is Was It Good?
And we are a sitcom, but Peacemaker is not a sitcom.
It feels like a sitcom.
Definitely doesn't feel like a sitcom.
I look at it as
Do you know what a sitcom is? It's a situational comedy.
Yes.
And they were in a lot of situations that
there
were
was
comical.
Comedy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Boom.
they certainly
Not a
didn't
sitcom.
treat the characters as if they were anything other than in a sitcom.
I call it a sitcom because James Gunn is kind of like a walking sitcom.
Huh.
And everything he does is funny
Oh.
and good and
Yes.
You might want to rethink the everything.
great. Everything
Why? What are you
part-
thinking of?
Yeah, is there something specific?
You
with
know,
James?
everything in James Gunn's history.
Oh, I mean, whoops.
No, he didn't say did. He said does. Does implies a currency, not a past.
The majority of the content James Gunn creates is funny.
There you go.
That is my new statement. I apologize for my previous statement.
You're canceled.
Yeah. Anything
Just
he
kidding.
hasn't been canceled for or apologized for, I would say, is pretty funny for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part.
I didn't love that Office thing, but did he direct that? Do you guys know? What was that? Belko or something like that? The Belko experiment, where the guy from 10 Cloverfield Lane is working in an office, and then I think even Economos is in it.
He's in a
Agee,
lot of his
Steve
stuff,
Agee.
yeah.
He's a comic. He's very funny. Steve, if you're
yeah.
watching, big fan of your work.
I've not
He
heard
was
of
also
this.
in that one where it's like the Superman thing, right? Where it's like the kid is an alien, but he's evil.
Oh,
Brightburn?
Brightburn or something like
Yeah,
that.
was
yeah.
him. Was that him directing it or producing it?
No,
Or
I
something
think he
like
had something to do with it. Oh, you're not talking about Agee. You're talking about
Gunn.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. Agee has mostly been doing writing and stuff.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, the Belko experiment where they have the office. They're in an office. They lock it down and like every hour you have to kill somebody or we all
one of
kill
those,
you.
one
And
of
then
those.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
Gunn
Oh,
directed
so
that
a Thursday.
at your place of employment.
No, just my
You know,
general Thursdays.
Some places of employments have some things like that, but it's like not that extreme. Like
Squid
car
Games.
dealerships, for example. Like if a car dealership is doing poorly, they'll do like whoever has the least amount of sales, you're fired.
Isn't that like
Yeah.
pretty? Isn't like a thing? I've never worked at a car dealership, and I
Me
could
either.
completely
Me
be
either.
making this up. But like the lowest salesperson generally gets let go at some point, right?
You would
It
imagine.
Unless they bounce back.
You would imagine.
But I mean, like if you're the lowest salesperson for like 6 months running, probably not making it
I
to
think
month
it
7.
It depends on like what your I want to say like rules of employment are.
Yeah,
Right? Like
also a lot of these people, at least in my experience of working sales, it's like if I wasn't selling, I wasn't making money, so I wasn't
yeah, 'cause
working
it's
there because
commission-based,
right,
I didn't.
typically.
I didn't. Why would
Makes
I?
sense.
Except
Yeah.
for when I worked for Kirby.
Anyway, Peacemaker.
Yeah,
Peacemaker, the show that's not really about peace or making.
it is kind of about peace, making peace with yourself and your demons.
That is probably what it is about.
Making peace with the aliens that
well,
have
they
invaded
didn't
your
really
planet.
make peace with
They
No,
did.
quite the
Well,
opposite.
one
killing
of them.
them.
Quite the opposite. Yeah,
They
death
made peace.
is the ultimate
Yeah.
peacemaker.
Which is his whole thing, right? He made peace
oh,
with them
man.
by killing them.
I read it. and
Pieces of them.
Spoiler alerts if you have not watched Peacemaker.
Krishna.
the aliens all die except one alien.
Right.
Yeah,
What's the
Well,
alien's name?
presumably
Goth.
one.
Well, just
Goth.
Goth.
They
right.
keeps Goff around,
Yeah.
which is strange.
And he has some of the goo. So I
Yeah.
mean, Goth is
Goff
probably
is
on the
probably
limited,
on the last.
limited
Right.
lifespan. there.
Hopefully, so is his father, as we saw in the last cut. He's stuck with his dad.
Well, that's a
Goth
mental
His
thing.
mind- his
Right.
mind.
Yeah.
And hopefully he doesn't stick around for long. For
Well,
Peacemaker's
I
sake.
put that in the outline.
You didn't?
I did about his dad.
So you think it's gonna be a big piece of season 2?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it
it's
has
gonna
to
be. It's
be.
gonna be at least the beginning. I mean,
Well, yeah, it's the shadow we all live with.
Right.
The
The
father
shadow
in
of
us
our
all.
parents?
Yeah. We are what we were
I think
created
James
to be.
Gunn's talked about like he loves like the original Terminator movies, so he
Mhm.
loves Robert Patrick, and he's like, I'm gonna find as many ways to work with that guy as I possibly can.
Yeah, why waste Patrick in such a crazy role? Too?
If Peacemaker's father is there as a mental character, if you will, right, like a shadow of him, do we see potentially then a mini arc or something around what his father represented with the supervillain racist character that is known as, was it White Dragon?
I don't know if we get anywhere anymore with White Dragon. It seemed like that was a joke more than anything.
Right, and I think that was also like part of I think that was like the meta commentary too, with like Peacemaker, his own character origins, and then also like separating the character from like that, you know, and also being like, I am bad, but I'm not bad because of my dad, and like obviously I hate racists and that type of stuff. But I think it would be more of his own father-son issues, which obviously there was a plenty, you know, within those flashbacks and the real hatred between them, and also his dad was just a complete piece of shit, obviously, as we saw, and obviously
Toss of shot,
and obviously like shaped him. In a lot of bad ways, right? And so that's also him trying to like grow as an individual. So I'm sure like however long that mental aspect for season 2 kind of sticks around for, that will be something that pulls him back, right? That's going to be like that antagonist.
Well, that's why I wonder if like everything that we saw with White Dragon, if that's not done yet, because you introduce these racists.
Sure.
You introduce the fact that his father has some kind of tech or tech know-how. If, let's say, the father is this mental thing, it would be kind of interesting to see if somebody else comes to take the mantle, right?
I think...
so
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, in regard to your point with the father being there, though, I think it pertains to the White Dragon question you're asking, which is I don't think it will. It doesn't matter because his dad is dead, so whatever technology he had, he can't pass to his son. It's just a mental projection. I think it really is mostly just Gunn's visual representation of the fact that you can have an epiphany and say, oh yeah, my dad was an asshole, I should not have listened to him. But that doesn't mean that all of the things that he ingrained in you, good or bad, are not still a part of you and not something you need to work on separating from yourself. So yeah, I think more than anything, that's just, if he exists in season 2, it will be as a contrast to change, in that what wouldn't my father do type of thing, or that sort of thing.
And his father represents a lot of the self-doubt that John has, like, about himself and like what he does.
Chris.
And
yes, Chris Smith.
Yeah, John Cena.
I didn't see John Cena in this.
I mean, John Cena,
with
real quick,
Chris.
like John Cena, just like Robert Downey Jr., just like Christian Bale, and just like so many other people, like actors and actresses. John Cena was clearly born, right, to play Peacemaker. I think this is it.
It's a role that works.
This is it for him.
It's a role that works really well for his brand.
His RDJ for him, like
his brand of acting. I think I brought it up when we did the first Peacemaker one. Of like, you know, he did Fast 9 and he tried to play like a bad guy, like more traditional bad guy, and it's just like, you know, this isn't his strengths as a performer. Like this hits a lot of like. I think what he's good at.
You know that John Cena is really big, obviously, in wrestling and WWE. I want to say WWA for some reason, but WWE, you know, obviously they team up with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and John Cena does a lot of like visits for kids. Do you think in the next, let's say, year, do you think there will be more requests of John Cena as Peacemaker, or is like John Cena the wrestler?
Well,
I don't know.
I hope kids
Cena the wrestler
watching.
is probably more famous.
Yeah, and I hope kids younger kids aren't watching like Peacemaker.
Do you remember Halloween?
Games,
do you remember Halloween at this house? What happened?
Yeah.
Majority of the fucking kids were Squid Game characters. So 100% kids are like watching.
No,
But
I mean
it's good
for sure
because this had a good message, I think. And yeah, another reason I don't think we'll worry about the dad's White Dragon is I think this season was about racism, and next season will be about something else.
So what do you think it's going to be about? Let's just jump into like, what do we think next season is? Based on like, I mean, I guess like kind of recap where it all ended, right? The biggest thing that I think is bigger, not just for this show, but the DCEU, or at least do we call it the Prime universe? Because like we're all we're doing multiple DC universes now.
Just
So
call it whatever you want to call it. Call it
It is the DCEU.
the Peacemaker verse.
the Zack Snyder and James Gunn joint effort to fix the DCEU from the Warner Brother executives that lost their fucking marbles.
Yep.
Okay, so
Concise.
Amanda Waller and Task Force X and that whole thing has now been exposed. Doesn't mean it's necessarily being shut down, but it's been exposed. This group obviously is clearly not going to be working with Amanda Waller anymore. So
The 11th Street Kids, as
is that what
they dubbed themselves.
They dubbed
yeah.
themselves. So is there any kind of reference to that in the comics?
Well, I don't know about
Wow.
the 11th Street Kids, but I know even back in the Suicide Squad, they would mention Task Force X, and Task Force X is in the comic books. It is an extension of
I thought
the
Task
Suicide
Force it
Squad.
was just another name for the Suicide Squad.
It's I think it's actually an extension. Like it comes from the Suicide Squad.
So just like a
So-
recreation.
Yeah,
Like a rebirth?
like different members, different leaders. So like in that, like I could see this being the birth of that in the DCEU Prime Snyder guy verse. What's this guy's name? James Gunn. Gunn.
what's his
What's
name?
this guy's name?
Yeah, I mean, I think what the first season of Peacemaker did really well was, introduce these characters, reintroduce some characters, and make them compelling and interesting and a fun team to kind of root for.
Mhm.
It's something that James Gunn has obviously done really well over the first two Guardians movies and whatnot. So I would just like to see these characters come back together for whatever reason, and probably go against some threat. Maybe not another like giant alien.
As Economist said, no more kaijus.
Yeah, it would be nice not to have another because that would be the third straight for James Gunn of kaijus.
But I'll ask
Wait,
this
what was,
question.
what was the first
Star-
kaiju?
Star.
in Suicide Squad.
He wasn't.
That was definitely a
Yeah.
kaiju.
Wait, that was the first.
That was the first James Gunn's. I'm just talking about James Gunn.
I
Sure.
mean, technically, the Guardians.
you said this was the
2,
third one.
Guardians
I wouldn't
2
want a third one.
started
I'm confused. Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
James Gunn has a kaiju.
because like
fetish.
Guardians 2 starts with
A kaiju.
kaiju
Yeah.
as well.
He definitely has a kaiju fetish.
I mean, the thing though is like that's the easiest thing. Not the easiest, but it's the. I don't know. Like if you're going like scale wise in terms of threat levels,
Yeah.
it's like the easiest way to convey to the audience this big thing equals bad.
It's just like the Death Star. Like everybody's
Yeah,
like, why do they
exactly.
keep making the Death Star? It's like, well, have you invented something better to destroy
And
an
there
entire
it is.
galaxy?
There's our Star
But
Wars
also,
plug.
but also, Peacemaker, like they did a good enough job of creating this team and these characters where it's intimate enough where it doesn't have to be like an end of the world situation to make it
Mhm.
interesting. It can be like his racist father, and it would still be interesting. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not saying it
Yeah.
has to be that, but like it could be just like a small bunch of hippies, and you'd be like, okay, they could probably make it a compelling story, an interesting story. Especially like the nice thing about HBO Max and all of these shows is that they're short, they're kind of sweet, they're not 22 episodes, an
Right.
hour long.
This
It's
was
not
what
the hour
8 episodes.
8 episodes
Yeah.
of like 40-ish minutes, right? So it's like nice and compact. It's not super long or anything, and you can tell like a nice kind of concise story.
Was anyone surprised? Because obviously the season's over. We don't know when a season 2 is coming back because James
or if
Gunn.
it will.
Well,
It has officially been
green-
renewed for
yeah.
a second season.
Oh, it has.
Yes.
It has been.
Oh, good.
Both
And so
Cena
that
and
is-
Gunn like tweeted and talked about it in some
Yeah.
interviews.
But because Guardians 3 is happening, I think for most of the rest of this year,
Yeah, he's busy.
he's busy. So like,
Plus, he wants to take a break.
Yeah,
it
did
could
he
be
say
a
he was
couple
going to take a
years.
break before coming
Well,
back?
after I think Guardians 3 holiday special thing is done, whenever that is, I think that comes out this year. I don't know.
they're filming the Guardians
I thought
3,
2023.
the Guardians holiday special, and new scenes for the Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Disney,
And Groot.
and that's animated, I think, right?
Right, but he's involved with that.
He's involved in that, but
Yeah.
that's a little easier. But like those 3 are all filming back to back, like all together.
Right, so
So
then
I
after
would-
that, he'll take a break, and then so we're probably not seeing like a season
Probably 5
2
years.
until like
And
early
he,
as 2024.
and he just got engaged to Jennifer Holland, who plays Harcourt.
Oh, and we
So
all
he's
know
about to
she's
get married.
very heavy on the
Wedding planning.
No, what do you call that? I was gonna be a toxic masculine. Anyway, maintenance, high maintenance. She's very high maintenance, so he'll be very busy.
Anyway, but maybe he wants to take some time off, to get married.
My question for you both was with season 2,
What's it about?
And with this, more specifically with this show, like going into it and everything, were you surprised how much you enjoyed it, liked it?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I remember the early promos, it was very much, oh, cool, another weird over-the-top action thing for the sake of being over the top.
I think we all also walked out of the Suicide Squad and we're like, of all the characters, why him?
Right.
It's like we knew the least about him. I guess that's obviously why they ultimately went with a character who was more of a, there was more to dive into him than some of the other characters that were in it. But it was like, why him? He wasn't a likable character intentionally in the Suicide Squad, and I was just like, this just seems like a spinoff too far. And I mean, credit to them of like creating something that was wacky and crazy and weird, and also different and against the grain. And I think that also helped too. Of like, we live in a world where there are Marvel shows that are vastly similar and similar in style and whatnot, and we get a lot of like content that is similar. And not that this is like completely unique or outside the box, but at least there were elements that were interesting and entertaining. And I kept wanting to come back each week and was compelled of like, oh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And there's actually a line, I think, in the finale where they're like, I haven't slept in 2 days or something. And I realized I'm like, oh, the last like 5 episodes have been like a day and a half.
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts.
They bonded they bonded quicker than we cared about them over the course of 8 weeks. It took us 8 weeks to care, but they bonded in a day and a half.
In a couple days, because like the last 4 or 5 episodes are all just like back to back.
Trauma will do that to you. Bond you as a group.
But I mean,
it's a great bonding agent.
Those characters had like obviously other trauma behind everything that they had done and seen and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, everybody had to grow. Harcourt learned a thing or two. I don't know. Season 2 will be interesting since they ended it the way that they did. I think it sort of negated some of the stakes, I guess, when everybody made it out okay.
I saw online that was like probably the biggest complaint was that everybody survived except what was it, the Myrn.
Right. Well, he wasn't going to anyway, but
because aliens are not people.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they survived. I mean, that was my feeling in the moment. Was like, oh, I was really glad that everything was going terribly, and then the music starts to go.
Oh, the slow-mo. I was like,
I was like, like as it's going down, I'm like, or especially once Economos started going awry. That's where I was like, oh, okay, Economos is going to go down here. It's going to be super tragic. And it could have been and it would have been, especially after his confession about the beard.
I was going to say.
Like,
what an amazing scene.
Yeah.
That was an incredible scene. That was an incredible scene of just like the tragedy of like, and I just thought no one would notice.
Yep. Yeah. So I think Gunn sort of undercut himself a little bit by allowing everybody to survive that when they probably should have died. But
I think he was too attached, honestly.
Well, no, I think they need a season 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so, but
the other thing too.
I think you could have taken out some of them and still had a season 2.
I mean, in my opinion, you could have taken them all out and still had a season 2. That's not my complaint.
Wait, even Peacemaker take him
out? Well, no, you don't take
No,
Peacemaker out.
Entire world.
What about Vigilante? Take him out as well?
Yeah, no, everybody should have been dead.
No, not
except
Vigilante.
for Peacemaker. Yeah.
Vigilante was my favorite character.
No, Vigilante was a great character, but as you know from the last episode we did, I thought he was going to turn bad, strictly because he's a terribly irredeemable character. There is no way that
somehow
character...
they took Peacemaker, who we thought was the worst character, and then they presented somebody even worse. So
well, he's Peacemaker without any remorse.
He
says he has no
emotions.
Yeah.
Right.
But who knows? Maybe he's the maybe he's the bad guy in season 2. Maybe he's the person they have to come against.
Think so anymore.
Because the other thing too is like in order
he's learning.
We're still in a superhero,
Yeah.
like a comic book superhero world, right? So there's still like general rules in terms of you need the big baddie who is somewhat smart and has a intricate and interesting plan. And Vigilante is, well, he's just an idiot.
He's an idiot with no conscience. And if I had seen the fourth episode like I should have before the last one, that prison scene made it pretty clear that Vigilante was not going to turn on Peacemaker. And you had mentioned, one of you two had mentioned that, but I hadn't seen it yet. I didn't know Vigilante wasn't racist. I thought he was. So the fact that he wasn't really, I guess, made that prediction useless because.
And all his best friends are within this group, as he.
He said that. Yeah, they were all. He numbered them, right? Yeah. All of his friends.
He said that his first best friend is
Peacemaker.
His second is Eagly. His fifth is Adebayo.
Mm-hmm.
So you can assume his third and fourth are some combination of Harcourt and Economos.
Or
maybe
somebody else outside. We don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, no, I take it from the end and the way that everything turned out that the focus here for this season was racism. And the aliens, being a form of stand-in for that, but specifically his dad being the antagonist and showing how stupid all of them were.
I don't know if the aliens were necessarily a representation of racism.
I wouldn't say a representation of racism, but of the other, of that idea that there is a distinction between human, humans in general are just somehow prone to this delineation of within our own species. We're like, oh, you're good enough, you're not good enough. That's the racist, the core of racism is delineation between who's good enough and who's not. And the aliens extend beyond humanity to represent the idea that, humanity oftentimes in alien movies is this ideal, like, oh, the humans must survive because humans are so important, mostly because we're humans watching the movie, so why wouldn't we be? But there is nothing inherently special about being human that makes us more important or different other than physical attributes. So as what I'm trying to explain poorly is that what I saw as the aliens are not an example of racism, but of this idea that there is an other. There should not be another in any situation. No matter how far you expand out, we all share the same space.
See, I looked at it more that they flat out said it, right? Like, humans are going down the same path as the butterflies. They came into control because they felt humans were too stupid to prevent their own annihilation, and they thought they were better. I guess that kind of makes sense in the form that they think they're better than us, so they're going to do whatever they think is ideal. But I wouldn't go to the point to say that it's a representation of necessarily racism.
No, not racism.
I think it's more of, one's individual freedom, peace, and all that fun stuff, and being able to do, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think the show is also about, like, there's more than, and maybe this gets into some of the...
More than one way to skin a cat?
Well, there's just also more than one way to look at a person, right? Even, like, look at our own views of, like, Peacemaker before the show and look at it after, right? And I think all these characters and even all these elements within the show, your perception shifts over time as to what they are. They're not exactly what they appear to be when you first meet them, or just, based off of the initial image or, thought process you kind of get behind them. Now, some elements do, like the racists, and I think that's obviously intentional to have that. But I think it's also like, hey, just because you're... I think James Gunn always loves having things that are gray, right? And so, like, Peacemaker is a gray character, right? He's not the most holy and good person, but he's also not a bad person either. Like, he does good things, he does bad things. All of these characters do good and bad things throughout the entire run of the show. Much like the Guardians, right? I always think back to, like, the very last, one of the last lines in the first Guardians movie where it's like, Star-Lord's like, should we do something good? Should we do something bad? maybe a little bit of both, right? And I think that's kind of like how Gunn looks at a lot of these things within the superhero genre of like, you know what's more interesting than like good guys and bad guys? People. And that these are people. And like,
yeah, I
you're-
mean,
you're
nobody here
inherently
has
gonna do something
nobody here
good
has
with
like
stuff.
superpowers or anything,
Right.
right? They're just regular or Peacemaker is what? Just he's been trained in all forms of weaponry since he was a child.
Right.
Well, I would say yes. I think Gunn does tend to do that, and I think that's more probably, in my opinion, more a symptom of his quality of observation, and maybe also a side effect of the time. I feel like we are getting more gray characters, especially since Game of Thrones started. Like, that is also just something we're ready for as people, and I think really does a better job of explaining the human condition than the idea of inherent good or evil. And it goes back, I think, to what this season was about. Is in regard, what I meant by racism is not necessarily specifically racism, but I think, as we've all touched on, this idea of groups and being a part of a group and what that means and how that can be positive and how that can be negative, and how we have a tendency to group, and that maybe isn't necessarily for the best in a lot of situations.
Do you think Peacemaker? Obviously, we had that interesting cameo towards the end of the episode. Where part of the, quote, Justice League shows up. Obviously, we had Ezra Miller playing the Flash. We had Jason Momoa showing up as Aquaman. And then we had 2 stand-in actors for Superman. No, they were stand-in actors. Stand-in actors.
Yeah,
there was 3 in total. There was the stand-in actor for Superman, stand-in actor for Wonder Woman, and a stand-in actor for Batman. But the Batman one was cut.
I did not
I
know
totally
that.
didn't even realize
so all 3
that
of
Batman
these
was
There was no
posted.
Batman and there was no Cyborg.
And there was no Cyborg,
which probably WB, with everything going on with Ray Fisher, is like, we're just not going to go there. And probably told James Gunn.
I wonder if that's partially why. I think it's similar to why Batman didn't show up either, is because we're not entirely sure where the whole
They
Ben
probably,
Affleck stuff
I mean,
is
like, the
ending.
Batman's also coming out in a week and a bit.
Yeah, have you guys ordered your tickets, by the way?
No,
I need to do
We
that.
can.
You
we
normally
can do,
do
the
that
AMC
for me.
thing and do it.
But having said that, right, they probably don't want to confuse viewers. 'Cause viewers are already, or I feel like a lot of people are probably already confused of like, is this the Ben Affleck Batman that Robert Pattinson is? Is this a different Batman?
Just wait till the
Which Batman
Flashpoint
would it
comes
be?
out.
I
and
don't
then-
know, though. I think after all the Batmans we've had, the public is fairly used to different Batman.
But that's probably why they just decided
training.
not to throw a Batman in there, because if they throw like Robert Pattinson's Batman in there all of a sudden,
But why not do a
people-
silhouette? It's a cowl with points. Like it.
Yeah, that
It
part
doesn't
I
need
think
to
is a
be.
little strange.
It's weird.
I think
Yeah.
maybe they're just trying to remove Batman from the Justice League.
Ooh.
Which is fine. I mean, if we,
That's
if
probably
anything,
what
we've
they're
seen
trying
like
to go
He's
for.
not got powers.
Batman is more interesting when he's outside
Right.
everything,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's 2 things that stand out where Batman, part of the Justice League, and then kind of take a step back. First one is Young Justice. I think it's season 2. He jumps out and forms his own like secret Justice League. Crisis on 2 Earths. He lets the Justice League go and do their thing, and he stays back because he even says he's like, I don't care about that particular thing. I care about this thing. So him being in the shadows, I think, is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It
anyway,
also-
do you think Peacemaker would join those, as he calls them,
No.
fuck faces?
No,
No,
I think
that'd
that's
be
the whole point
ridiculous.
of that scene, and maybe that's why they chose those 4 specifically, because they're the most like super powered of the Justice League.
Oh,
They're
also,
also
he
the
has a big
most-
beef with Batman.
He does have
The
whole
whole
thing.
diatribe about
Yeah.
Batman.
Calls
I wonder,
Batman a pussy.
that has to have something to do with it.
But
Now I'm even
I'm-
more
They're
curious.
saving Batman. For
How do you
season
have
2.
a whole show where Peacemaker shits all over Batman for the
was
first
really
half?
just that like one
2 episodes, right?
There was that one discussion with the neighbor, with his father's neighbor, about Batman and how Batman is an asshole because he captures the Joker and then the Joker is freed and can go fucking.
And then he's
kill
like,
a
"You want to
bunch
know
of
why I
people."
have no feelings? Because I killed the
I
6
killed
feet
him.
under.
Yeah. Batman's a pussy.
right. Batman's
Yeah.
a pussy.
But I wonder if he
yeah.
feels the same way now.
See,
Because
I
he
think it's
doesn't want to
those-
kill anymore.
I think it's those 4 specifically because they also represent, you know, when we're talking great characters, obviously Peacemaker is a great character. Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman and the Flash, for the most part, like comic book history wise, they're pretty like when you think like superhero, you think that is the good guy, right? There is no gray area for those characters. In more recent years, like definitely like Flashpoint stuff, you see like Aquaman and Wonder Woman wage war against the whole Earth. But like traditionally, it's like Wonder Woman's fighting for justice and peace, and Aquaman is saving the environment
and fucking fish.
And fucking
right,
fish.
it's finally canon. I thought that's what you were gonna get to. I was like, oh yeah, the big reveal of this show is that it's canon.
He's a
Aquaman
fish
fucks fish.
For some reason, I really want fish sticks right now.
Fish sticks.
Fish sticks.
I'm not Kanye West from fucking South Park, and I like fish dicks.
I am curious. So
it's good that you're curious.
Yeah, no.
Stay
well,
curious.
Just thinking back on Peacemaker, I don't mean to like whiplash anybody, but the characterization of the characters, like, did you guys feel like they nailed it or not?
So my biggest and this is probably the stupidest thing to nitpick, but what's her name? The female agent,
Harcourt.
What is it?
Adebayo.
No, the other one.
Harcourt.
The whole thing where he's waiting for her in the hospital for days, and then they hold hands.
Mm-hmm.
I
didn't like the romantic
I don't know
tension.
why, but I was just
really
like, because
like the
I was
romantic
so
tension.
impressed and happy when, like, the first episode where he goes to the bar, he tries to like chat her up because he's been in jail for 4 years and he just wants to fuck. I was very happy to see like something different where she's like, no, fuck you, and put him in his place and is like this badass, and I thought that was cool. And I wanted that to be maintained throughout the whole show. But like they kind of broke into that like general.
Will they? Won't they?
Yeah. I don't think that's what that was.
I mean, maybe not.
I
Maybe
think
not.
you're
That
right.
could very much be just me being like, I know Hollywood.
I would say I kind of lean towards him because they did have more moments with Harcourt where she like showed a little bit more like romantic tenderness to him.
I didn't like
and
that.
I was just like, I kind of agree with you. It felt like they veered her character a little bit more, but.
I mean, it's growth. It's a person who is unwilling to open up to anybody who at the end finally decides to open up. It doesn't have to be romantic. It's we reached out to each other. I reached out to somebody when the whole show, my flaw was I don't reach out. I cut people off.
But you could have done that with any other character.
It was important. Both of them needed to have it happen.
They did it a little bit with her and
Adebayo.
Like there was definitely a little there, and I thought that was great. I still think you don't need to see it with Peacemaker.
I think
because you just fall into like the traditional like, you know, two characters of the opposite sex have tension. They say they won't do anything, and then they fall and have a relationship or fuck or whatever, and that's just boring.
Well, okay, I'm not interested in any romantic relationship between the two. I'm just saying I don't think it's a romantic thing. I think you have it between those two, not for the romance, but because you have two people who are incapable of that kind of intimacy for different reasons.
Why are you crossing your hands?
Because intimacy is holding hands in my vernacular. So when I think of intimacy, I want to bring the hands together. Plus, that's what we were symbolized. There was actual hand holding. So, to me, the significance of that is that you have a Peacemaker who's incapable, is emotionally intelligent. I mean, you could use many derogatory terms to refer to his emotional IQ, and his inability to reach out because he doesn't know how to. And then you have Harcourt, who has likely had a reason to be withdrawn and finally has somebody she can trust. And you visualize that with those two characters because they need it together and they need it individually. But yes, if you go into romance, then I think you kind of.
Well, I mean, time will tell, right?
Yeah.
Like if we start seeing more of it in season 2, I probably will do a big old eye roll.
Yeah.
Show us.
Sure.
Show us what you do.
Yeah.
No, but
Did you
did a
Krista?
head roll.
Right, but my eyes are in my head.
Yeah.
And if the whole head moves, the eyes are still moving.
That doesn't count.
I don't want to do it. It'll hurt my
The
eyes.
Earth is moving. Your eyes are technically moving.
Always.
Oh my
right?
God, I've
moving.
been eye rolling since birth then.
I haven't moved my eyes once. Adebayo was another one that I had trouble with. I forgive them all because the show was fun. But how do you get raised by the woman she was raised by and not come out all sorts of messed up?
I'm going to assume, and maybe this is a poor assumption on my part, but I don't think she was raised fully by her mother.
That's possible.
I would imagine it was a joint custody thing, and she's probably spent time more with, her potentially her father or adopted family or grandparents or sister or aunt or something. But I don't think Amanda Waller had, because you also have to think about it this way. Amanda Waller's character, at least from what I know in the comics, she's a military and not Secret Service, and she's a military and intelligence person, right? And she's been doing it her entire career. And from what we've seen with like Suicide Squad and stuff, and like what we've seen of her character in and out of like certain movies, I don't think she would have the time to like raise a kid, or at least raise a kid properly. So again, even if she was under Amanda Waller's custody the whole time, I'm sure there's like a nanny or something that did majority of like the work.
I also would say that like she's not totally normal and like not like
she's desensitized. She's to a degree. She's
not
desensitized
entirely. She's never killed anybody. Somehow
until these last 2 days, and then she like kills a lot of people.
Well, right,
in
and
2
she's
days.
but
are butterflies people though?
Well, I think that's why you have kaijus and aliens, so you don't have to go around
Those people are already, because even the butterflies like Murray said it right, like they do take over and essentially kill the person.
Right.
And
we
then
watch
use the body
die.
as
like a house.
Yeah, basically.
But her killing people is beside the point. It's the fact that she's good at it is one thing, but like even I think you're on to something. It seems like Amanda Waller is not the most hands-on parent, but she is an incredibly fucked up individual who we've seen the measure of her character, and it is extremely lacking. I cannot imagine that even with a nanny, she would not go out of her way to make her daughter a ruthless killer. So up until about halfway through, I was pretty sure that she was not going to come out on the plus side of this. But she maintained that I'm just loving everybody attitude the whole way through, which honestly I just didn't buy as somebody's daughter, as Waller's daughter. Like, I don't know how you come out of that family situation like that.
I feel like they tried to retcon some of that with like the conversation that she had with her mom and whatnot, and then even like Waller's scenes in the Suicide Squad. Like, it is supposed to be the same Amanda Waller from the first Suicide Squad, but they also just like did some subtle differences of like different wardrobe and just even like the way that she was, even though she was ruthless and bad, it wasn't as bad as like that first version.
She didn't murder her whole team for no reason.
Exactly, right. And I think like Gunn has said like this isn't a direct sequel. Like I remember when he was talking about the Suicide Squad, he's like, this isn't necessarily like
a spiritual sequel.
Exactly. And he's like, there's a lot of same characters and there's a lot of characters played by the same actors. But it's like, you can't tell me the Rick Flags from both of those are the same character.
Different.
They're really different, And I think to a lesser degree, Waller is the same way. So I think Adebayo's character is interesting because I wonder, like, within season 2, are we going to see her become more like her mom now that she's like more involved in this world? Does she even stay in this world too?
Well,
she's exposed them. But it's like, is she going to try and now go back to doing doggy grooming, or
I would
is she
imagine
now in this world?
I imagine it's going to start. The first episode will start similar to how I think it was like Parks and Rec season 3 first started, where remember the town had shut down,
right,
and everyone had to go find like a new job. And then, was it the main character? Leslie goes and recruits everyone back. I think that's how season 2 will start. Everyone's doing a new job. Something will occur. And then probably either like a Peacemaker, or more likely, I think, like a vigilante will get them all back together to go do something.
Judo Master.
Oh,
Judo
man,
Master's character was weird to me.
Yeah,
I didn't get the point.
He was just
maybe
eating
I missed
Cheetos.
Was that the whole point?
No,
I think he was supposed to be, and the show did it feels like there were a few scenes missing, maybe, I don't know, but he was supposed to be like that connection to the butterflies, like as Goff kind of revealed at the end. She's like, we revealed this to Judo Master, and he was like on our side. So he's essentially like, I think he's supposed to be some type of like, he's supposed to be similar to Chris in terms of like, here's a guy who's like doing stuff for good,
Right.
but like actually believes in what they're doing. And like,
Right.
oh, like to save humans, like we have to let these people take over and do it for us. And like, I guess with that last shot, you see him emotional and sad to see all of them dead.
And then he eats Cheetos.
He's eating his Cheetos. So that will probably be a threat, especially like them showing that at the end. It's probably going to be a threat that kind of beats
Or do you think
up in
this is
season 2.
really Cheetos' way of saying that we have a new mascot?
Well, I mean, they must have paid a lot for that.
He's
placement.
not eating just Cheetos though.
It's mostly junk food.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I'm saying it's spicy. Isn't it the
Is this
spicy
the Fires
the
Cheetos?
spicy
Flamin'
Cheetos?
Hot Cheetos.
Fuck, I am hungry. I
Flaming
want
Hot
all of
Cheetos.
this so
I'm
badly.
pretty hungry.
I would say that.
Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, can we wrap this up? I want to go fucking eat.
That is a character. Yeah, I haven't thought about as much, but I am curious about.
Well, there wasn't
that.
a whole lot.
Well,
of
it was
No,
weird.
but I think there's something there. I just haven't
It was
turned
also-
it over enough.
It was
to-
also weird because like he gets shot by Adebayo in like 4 or 5.
in the chest.
Yeah.
Right, and then they're like, yeah, he's probably going to die. You don't see him for like 3 episodes.
And then he
pops
never
back.
dies.
And then they're like, oh, wait, he's gone again. And then they're like, who cares?
And he
and
has
then-
no purpose.
And then he kind of breaks out, and then they show him like beat up some people at a gas station
Steal
to
their
steal a
car.
car. And then he shows up at that last battle too late.
Yep.
So but that to me is like threads for season 2.
Potentially.
Because otherwise
Yeah.
it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like, why include
Why
any
have
of
him?
that? Either just have him disappear,
Yeah.
and like either you touch on it again or you don't. But to include those later scenes must be this is going to be part of the connective tissue to season 2. Probably the same, similar to Goff, right? Like, is Goff going to try and find him again? I mean, you figure now Goff is with Peacemaker because he's providing
Food.
But how long can Goff survive
Because
on
the
just
creature's
yeah.
dead.
Right.
The supplies.
Right,
So I don't
'cause
get the
there are still
impression-
butterflies out there because they said there's butterflies all around
But
the
they're-
world, but they're
well-
going to die because without the amber, the
How does
town
that
is
work
dead.
too? By the way, like because these butterflies have like made it up to political levels.
You have no idea, right? We have no idea how many
Yeah.
people are butterflies.
I wonder if like the
Well, we
next,
do have an
what's
idea of
the
how many
next
people are butterflies.
DCEU thing coming out.
Because we saw how many butterflies there are.
We didn't get an exact number. We just know
Not
they're
an exact,
everywhere.
but we saw the area and how dense it was at the
Yeah.
first or second episode.
First episode.
It's worldwide
Right.
and it's
Right.
extensive.
It could be a lot of people,
So it's
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to be
Yeah.
dead.
right?
I could see season 2 either being helping the remaining butterflies survive, or preventing the surviving butterflies from getting a second cow, or we deal with the aftermath of all these people dying and they're not a thing anymore.
Right.
Because I don't see how they survive as is. So either we have a whole situation where they go on a quest and save them. Quest.
There's a lot of ways that could go, and I think that's kind of nice. That is, they're not necessarily locked into just like we have to do this for season 2.
Well, and it's a character show, right? So it doesn't matter what they do. It's about whether we see Peacemaker, Vigilante, Harcourt, Abadiah, and Economos
Do
doing
something.
their things. Yeah, interacting, learning,
interacting
growing.
with each other.
I don't know if they can do the same thing for season 2, though.
I mean, they have to introduce new like core characters. Otherwise, yeah, it kind of will stop their growth of.
Yeah, where do they
Character
grow
development.
from here? I
Yeah.
mean, none of them are very perfect or good, especially not Vigilante, but
He's still the best. I mean, speaking of characters and like favorite characters and stuff, obviously I said Vigilante was my favorite. But my other favorite character was Captain Casper Locke. Played by Christopher. I'm going to screw up his last name. Heyerdahl.
the guy that Mern
Yeah,
hires and then gets taken over
And
by
then-
the
yeah.
butterfly.
Do you know why though? I think he's a great character, Arjuna. This is specific to you, and if you can't figure it out, you should probably quit pop culture.
Is it because he was in
Something.
something?
Yes.
Wow, he looked so familiar the entire
Do
time. I never
you
looked it
happen
up.
to remember everyone's favorite Wraith from Stargate Atlantis?
Oh my
Todd.
God, that's Todd.
That's Todd.
I mean, that makes sense. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
I
too
thought
bad.
that was a cool, like, I was like, oh shit. Cause like when we were first introduced to
Yeah.
the Captain Casper, I said the same thing. I was like, this motherfucker is so
so
familiar.
familiar.
looking. Yeah.
So for our listeners and our viewers, and for Michael, I assume who don't know who Todd is.
no idea.
Todd was a Wraith character in Stargate Atlantis who was an enemy to the main characters in the show, but became this weird kind of ally, comic
Great
relief.
character.
Great character who was actually super fucking hilarious
Yeah.
in a show that was like very serious and buttoned up.
Is this a wraith like in Lord of the Rings? Or?
No, it's just
No,
like a
these-
species, like
yeah.
they're kind of like insectoidy type
And
of.
they
Okay.
drain the
They
life
like drain
force.
life force. It's ridiculous sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
This is back in the early 2000s of
The peak of
sci-fi
sci-fi
network.
television.
I'm familiar with Stargate.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
But
Just not-
here's another.
But it was
fun
the
fact.
he
show.
was he was an amazing character.
Yeah.
The actor was just like having so much fun. It's just like, hey, how much more ridiculous can I make this every episode, and then up that the next episode?
The best thing though is Jason Momoa was also a core character or main character in Stargate Atlantis, and there are a couple of episodes with Todd the
Oh,
Wraith
yeah.
and Jason Momoa's character.
I hope he was around. Like they were both around on set the same
really
day.
hope
We're
surely
able to
they-
reunite and
yeah.
just like
Look at us now.
because
You're a big famous multi-billionaire.
Momoa still talks about like he loved his time on Stargate Atlantis. Will like
Best
always
time.
like pose for like photos with the dozens of fans out there.
So Stargate Con is actually coming back finally this year in Chicago.
Oh, I've never been.
He's not listed as a guest.
Momoa?
Yeah, no.
What about
they have the
oh
money to
boy.
pay his fee.
Probably not. His fee's probably very, very
Will be high.
expensive.
Yeah.
But how they like the other reason I bring up like this character is the intro theme song, right?
Right.
Has a lot of these majority of characters that all kind of played interesting parts
Roles.
and everything, right? Specifically the two detectives.
Little spoilery too, if you think about it, because like you saw those detectives and you didn't see them for a couple episodes, but you're like, oh, if they're in the intro,
Yeah, they're not
Probably
important.
come
But
back.
we had we had the neighbor, we had like you did mention the last one that pretty much everybody we had seen in the first couple of episodes was in it. So
in the theme song,
they
yeah.
did do a decent job of covering that, but
I thought that you saw so much screen time with them though, specifically in that intro. You're like, they have to come back. It can't be just that one scene because then why wouldn't you have like the couple with the apartment that they like paid off with
Yeah.
the information and stuff, you know? So like,
well, I guess I just figured
Yeah.
at least they'll be investigating and chasing. I
Right.
didn't, I guess I didn't guess that they would have been.
I didn't guess they'd become butterflies, but I knew
Butterflies.
they.
That
I
was
guess I knew they would
nuts.
come.
Yeah,
back.
that entire
the way-
sequence where the butterflies take over the
the
entire
monster
police.
song, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good sequence.
That
Very
was
gory.
really
Lot
well
of
done,
blood.
upping the stakes, like just totally destroying all these characters.
How
that
many
we-
characters from the opening theme song are dead by the end? By the end,
That was weird.
None of them except for
The whole thing just like
3.
crack the table.
I don't know. That's
What?
weird.
only 3 of them died.
No, because the dad's dead.
Dad's gone. The
Okay.
3 cop.
The
Three
2
cops.
cops.
Oh,
probably
Mern.
the third
Mern's
one.
dead.
Who's Mern?
Mern is their leader, who is also a butterfly. And
He's
dies
not in the
se-
opening.
He is in
sequence.
the opening sequence.
Yep.
He's
Wait.
right behind Harcourt.
Yep.
He is.
Yeah.
I've never.
I've
noticed
watched that
him.
sequence way too many
I've watched
times.
it every
I
time.
never skip it, but I didn't realize.
Mern's
he's
in there.
I
Mern's
only
in
skipped it. I only skipped the theme song once. That's because I was watching like 3 episodes back to back.
Mm.
So I was like, "There's no point in watching it 3 times."
No,
The
the
janitor
point
only
is to
shows up
watch it.
twice. The neighbor's still alive, and then the main characters are all alive, and then
Yeah.
Judo Master's alive, and Eagly's obviously alive.
Man, I would be pretty pissed if Eagly had died.
I mean,
was
there was a
pretty
moment-
sure that when he was carrying the helmet, that
was gonna get
he
shot?
was going to get shot.
I
I
was
was
like,
like,
holy
oh,
shit.
super obvious.
I mean, he might as well have because he was barely in the episode.
well, yeah.
after
I mean, I'm
that.
glad they didn't. That
He's
was
a fucking eagle.
It was it was a better way to do that scene than shooting him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he
the whole point of
probably-
Eagly was so that you get the whole sequence where the eagle hugs Peacemaker twice.
and to visualize Peacemaker's love for America.
But I mean, they probably have to redo that opening
Why?
for season 2.
I mean, they will most likely come up with a new
Song.
song and a new dance.
They should do the
Yeah.
same song, same dance, just different characters.
I have a question for you guys. I asked this to Thad the other day. What is your take on that last line of the song? Throw your dog the invisible bone.
Throw your dog the invisible bone.
Oh, it's easy.
Okay.
You're gonna get a dog, and when I'm spitballing here. When you want the dog to do something, you trick it into thinking it's getting something, so you're leading it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
I would
do
say because
whatever.
like throw me a bone, or it's like such a common term of like reward me or something.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a fake reward, right?
Yeah, and I liked what Thad had to say about it. I didn't have an answer, but I like it's down the lines. Is basically we've all tricked a dog by throwing an invisible ball and had them go get it, which is a lot of like what his dad did to him or like what people do to get people to do stuff. So I don't know. I always caught that line, but I never thought about it. And I asked that about
there's
it.
There's an interesting thing about the band. So like that band's been around for a long time.
Big Wham.
Yeah. And apparently 3 days before the show premiered, they were dropped by their label. Because they were like, you guys aren't doing anything. And then the show came out, and the song rose up the charts, and now they're going on like a new tour and all this type of stuff.
So they actually dropped a music video, because I was looking on YouTube the other day to see if other people recreate the dance. And I stumbled upon the music video that they redid about 9 years ago. I will say this. It is god fucking awful. It is basically half them, the band, playing in a soundstage with a big truck, monster truck, fire shooting left, right, and center, and like two half-naked models barely dancing, and them just like playing, and like it looks very, very like, you know, early. But the thing is, it came out like 10 years ago, but it looks like a 90s music video. It's weird.
It's really dated.
Yeah.
Yes, did not date well.
Sense.
Well, the song worked well for the intro.
Oh,
it was
perfect.
It was great.
It
was great.
The choreographer did a
James
good
Gunn
job.
is great at getting old music and then just revitalizing life into it.
Is that an old song?
Yeah, the song itself came out quite a while ago.
Okay. I thought that, and then I was under the impression recently that it was written for the show.
Wasn't written for the show.
Okay.
Definitively not.
I think, well,
That's
I guess
what I
when I
thought
say
originally.
old, like it was early 2000s.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that is,
no, I was thinking,
that's
getting
20,
to
like
20 years
yeah,
old
it's getting
almost.
20,
Yeah, so
but
that
not
is
like
old.
70s.
Yeah.
Which is 50 years at this point.
Yeah.
I remember the 70s like it was in the 80s.
But I will say this. I mean, his whole reasoning of doing that was so people would watch the credits, and I think a lot of people watch the credits. So good job to him.
Yeah, but unfortunately, not all of us recognized
Consumed
that everybody was in it.
Yeah, clearly.
You're just so focused on the names.
I really don't remember. Even now, I'm like, really? Mern was
I mean,
in
once
it?
we're done taping here,
I'm gonna
we're
look
going
at
to
it. Yeah,
rewatch
I'm
it.
definitely gonna rewatch it.
Let's take a quick revisit at our predictions here.
Our
Because
bold
our
predictions.
our bold season-long predictions. Michael had said,
Fuck.
Vigilante will be a villain. Superman will be played by Henry Cavill.
Kind of looked like him.
Unfortunately, it was revealed earlier this week, or last week, Henry Cavill came out and said that him and his agent missed a clause in his Netflix contract that shows that Netflix owns the streaming rights to his likeness.
Wait, what?
And therefore...
That's why he wasn't in it?
Correct.
What? That's unbelievable.
Fucking Netflix
Damn.
destroyed my
That's a bad
prediction.
Well, he to his point, he even said, like, he himself didn't realize this. His agent didn't see it.
So did they actually film it with him, and then afterwards they had to pull it?
No, because of, I guess, when this was filmed and everything, it was already known that this could never happen.
Wow.
When they were looking to do it.
So I
and
assume
whatnot.
Cavill's new agent will be more.
And then the other like fun thing about that entire cameo sequence, you know, there, like I said, there was a Batman recorded. Gal Gadot, I think it was just simply a timing issue. Jason Momoa, they were able to get because they're shooting or had been shooting some Aquaman stuff. But for Ezra Miller, Guardians was already in production. Guardians 3 was already in production at the time of some of the reshoots and some of the extra stuff they needed. So Marvel and Disney lent out a volumetric studio space to Warner Brothers, HBO Max, to have the Ezra Miller stuff shot, which is kind of interesting.
Hasn't he? He's
cool.
like cameoed in so many of the DC movies as Flash. Ezra Miller.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He was in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
He was in the first Suicide Squad.
He's
the
like
OG
he's
one.
like the Thanos of the DC.
I actually read that he's now appeared in the most DCEU movies of any actor.
Oh, nice.
And he loves to punch his fans in the face.
Oh, really?
And have it recorded
That's a
and
great
put on the
video.
internet, and nobody says anything
Choke
about it.
him out.
Choke
Was
him
that
out,
actually Ezra Miller in
Yes.
the BVS
Yes.
cam? Or yeah, because it looks different when I
Wait, the BDS.
BVS Batman v Superman.
Oh,
yeah, that's
yes. Yeah, he's
That
got
is
like
him?
a
They
mustache
gave him a
thing.
little like facial
Yeah,
hair to make him look
he's got
older.
long hair
Yeah.
and like that's
I had said for my bold prediction,
Yeah.
Superman would cameo, and if I remember correctly,
You said it was gonna be like
neck
neck
up.
down.
or neck down,
Yeah,
and
like
you
just
wouldn't
like
see,
Shazam.
and you wouldn't see it being Henry
Straight.
Cavill.
too bad you were wrong.
That's because
You saw his face,
Spoiler,
but
Yeah.
it was just
I was
shadowed
Henry Cavill's agent.
Also, you were his former agent.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm clearly fucked up. And then Arjuna, your bold prediction was economist is a butterfly.
Oops.
But maybe he's like, maybe I didn't mean butterfly as in, the alien butterfly, but like he has gone through a metamorphosis through this entire show, right? He started as this like ugly little caterpillar.
Mute his microphone.
And then he, went into his hardened, cocoon, and he came out this beautiful butterfly that shined in the finale, revealed his darkest inner, most insecurities, got his leg blown out because he just fell awkwardly and broke it. And then like was able to help the team in the end.
Somehow crawled all the way over there.
It's a beautiful butterfly.
Can I stop you?
Therefore, I win.
You are correct. Your explanation of getting there, terrible. Let me simplify it. Yes, he started the entire show off very closed off to the world, calling everyone an asshole and fuck you. And then by the end, the last shot we see of him is a picture of him with his friends.
Yeah.
So yes,
He's a
you
butterfly.
are correct.
He's a butterfly.
In that sense.
I had to explain it for your simple mind.
No, you didn't have to do it that way.
Because you are still a caterpillar.
Did Peacemaker make the right choice?
That is a great question.
You're just gonna keep throwing questions out while I'm
Yeah,
gonna close
these
it
are all
down
things.
here.
Well, I know, but these are all things I've been like dying to think about. Is like because I was like,
I go back and forth.
We should choose the aliens.
I go back and forth. I really thought he was going to save them,
I did.
and I was honestly shocked when he's like helmet activate or like
Yeah.
whatever
When
Torpedo.
activation was.
Activate torpedo.
activate
Also,
human
isn't that just
torpedo.
kind of a mean thing? Like he just called her like his second best friend, and then he just like shot her into
She
the
wanted it.
guts.
Yeah,
She
but he
did it.
knew it's like a soft padding.
Well,
of guts.
He said that it was a prototype. It could shatter every bone. in your
right, but
body.
she already did it
But the mission
into a rock.
And the other thing is, no, that decision made the most sense. He wasn't going to give up people's freedom. He's all about freedom and peace and all that fun stuff. And what the butterflies were offering was taking of human life to trick other humans into a control and taking away your freedoms.
It was also a big mirror to his entire life. So when
Yeah.
they presented it that
Right.
way,
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by that.
I was surprised because I thought they were doing that comparison because he was going to then use that. I was surprised at his conclusion. I think it was the good conclusion.
Right.
But
I thought he would hesitate.
I'm
more.
surprised nobody's asked though. Like this cow, this creature,
was cute as fuck.
and innocent.
what?
You
Right?
you didn't think it was cute?
Yeah, it's some cute elements.
I think they made it intentionally, like gave it like those little baby
the-
eyes
the
or whatever.
anime
The 8
eyes.
spider eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love spiders. They're so adorable.
But the bigger question here, though, is like, regardless of if his decision was good or not, the fact that they went and for the most part killed an innocent animal.
Yeah.
We don't even know if it was sentient.
Right.
They called it a cow, so it could have just been a cow that we're familiar with here on planet Earth. But they went and just brutally murdered an animal to save themselves.
But
I mean, that's the human race.
One
right?
life, one life to save a billion. Is that really that big of a deal?
To quote The Dark Knight, one man with the entire mob.
What? Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
What? No.
That's
When the Joker is introduced and they're taking
no. We
down
know
the
that
mob.
they
Yeah.
said that, but how
so
does that apply
do you
to this?
save the one cute creature, or do you
they
save
weren't
the entire
They
human
weren't
race?
saving the mob or one man. They were taking.
I'm
him
just saying
down.
it's the one versus a larger group type of question.
But then it goes back to the question of your humanity.
Right.
Are you giving up your humanity?
And is that a
by
bad
taking
thing?
one? I don't know.
Like, is
This isn't-
humanity
this isn't
something
was it
worth
philosophy?
inspiring to?
Was it philosophical?
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind then.
But I do wonder if it is a question that will be revisited in season 2, especially with Goff seemingly around. Is it something that Chris will think twice about? I don't know.
I am curious about that because the ending did not do as much metaphorically as I was expecting. It does not seem to be concerned with that much
Fallout from the
meaning
event.
or lore. So
Yeah.
I would be curious if they'd even bother with it. In
I'm
season
gonna
two.
bet that come season 2, there's not gonna be like the fallout of the butterflies is not gonna be an arc or anything. I think maybe we'll get a sentence or two.
I don't know because Goff is still clearly around. So like
But almost dead.
Yeah.
but if the character, especially like having that last shot,
Mhm.
right?
So is that your bold prediction then that Goff will be a part of next season?
Yeah, I think Goff will be a part of season 2. And
My
will
bold
be a
prediction is Goff
significant
will
part.
not be a part.
So,
That's
like,
a cold prediction.
that's why I went mine with bold because like having a little alien bug thing as a significant part of your season is
especially when they have no food source or way to
Right.
survive. So it's bold in that it's the same as saying Peacemaker will be shot and killed in the first episode and never.
But at the end
reappear.
of the season, Peacemaker doesn't seem like he gives. He's like, what is he doing? He is hanging out. He's drinking a beer. He's dropping some food, and then just kind of sitting there and looking at his bird.
But he
devour
also
an animal. Or
But
something.
he also like he could have killed Goff.
Mhm.
That's the part of the thing, right? Remember, he shoots our friend Todd right in the face to kill the butterfly. He's
Right.
been shooting everyone. He shoots Goff in the chest,
yeah.
sees the butterfly get out, and leaves, right? He has multiple chances to kill Goff. I think that's all intentional. Like, if there was no idea, no plan to bring back Goff or, have any of that be part of season 2, why do any of that?
because it shows his growth as a person.
But I still think there's still more there, though. Because otherwise, you would, like, show Goff slowly. You wouldn't have Goff come back and then have him give Goff food as well.
Why
That means
not?
he has some type of supply of the amber, too.
So my bold prediction: season 2, episode 1 starts a funeral. It's
For Goff?
For Goff. It is just Peacemaker, and he's heartbroken because his only true connection, true friend, has passed.
Eagle?
Yeah.
And then Arjuna, this is still part of the prediction, will quit the show.
I have a feeling, like Goff lasts a couple of days at most.
And then he's gone.
She.
Or
well,
they.
do they have a
No,
I
no
guess I don't know.
genders.
I don't
No
know what their
genders.
gender is.
Wait, wasn't there a whole thing where they asked about?
Well,
I think so.
well, they remember the
Last-
person, but Goff was in a guy at the beginning of the
Right.
of the season, and in a female at the end. So,
So
I
I
don't
guess
think
it
Goff
doesn't
has
matter,
a
per se.
gender. Yeah.
Last question before we ask the main question, and this one's specific for you,
Me?
For Michael.
for Michael, because
Great.
when we all got together and recorded our first pod on Peacemaker, you had said your biggest question that you wanted answered was if
Oh, my God.
was the size of Peacemaker's dick.
Well,
It was never brought back up, as far
but
as
I
I
think
remember.
we have the evidence we need.
Small.
It's massive.
Is that a disappointment to you?
No.
Because you were really like
You went on like it felt 15
like a
minutes,
10-minute,
but it felt like a
tangent.
30-minute.
Yeah, no, it was a tangent, and clearly a lot of the things that I thought I was going to see in the second half of this show did not come to fruition. Mostly everybody dying and the actual size of his penis.
I think that's a good pivot to ask you now, Michael.
Oh,
Was-
you're going to take it on?
Was Peacemaker good?
Oh,
Whoa,
wow.
no
Look at that
preamble or
transition.
lead up. You
I
just
just- it
ripped
just felt-
it from
It
Ravi's
just
grasp.
felt like a good transition.
Great. Props.
It just
props,
felt like
props there.
you said because you said it was different than what you expected. So
Yeah.
was it good?
Yeah, and I was real hot on it when we did this at halfway mark, although I hadn't seen the halfway mark.
Yeah.
I would say that, I mean, the second half went in directions that I didn't expect. I felt like the characterization of the people, for the most part, especially Vigilante and Abadiah, were off. And normally that really upsets me and probably would have been enough to say no. It wasn't good. But I think I'm going to pivot from that and say that even though they didn't act like real human beings in my perspective, at least as I thought they were characterized in the first few episodes, I think that they fit the situation and the characters that they ended up being. Like, the fact that everybody survived really just goes and says, you don't need to worry too much about Vigilante killing a family. And loving it. He's still a good person for this show. So the fact that he warms up and has friends, that's fine, I guess. But yeah. So yes, it was very good. It's very good. It was not quite as deep and nuanced as I had hoped. Don't know why I thought it would be nuanced considering what it was, but maybe nuanced isn't the word. Metaphorical. I just thought he had a lot more to say about America and macho.
Maybe saving it for season 2.
Maybe. He definitely took care of his dad a lot quicker than I thought.
I think we said we thought that'd be more season 2.
Yeah,
I thought he was
I
gonna
really
survive
did.
till that. I was
Yeah.
surprised by the fact that he just shot him.
I mean, I think it's a good statement. I think it works well, and I think the way that whole situation turned out really was the turn for me, and that how comical and terrible that whole thing. Like he has these like, oh, I fly, and they're like running around the woods with an iPad, like chasing. Like that was the whole situation that brought on was just ridiculous, and I think it worked in this instance.
Oh, it's definitely scary. Racist with technology.
It was also funny that the most damage that Chris took in the entire show was by a raccoon in episode 7. All the scratches on his face.
Yeah.
He went in all those fights, like maybe had some internal bleeding and whatnot, but like physical damage, the raccoon.
Yeah, that's true.
This is great.
It did the most. So yeah, good. And then I will ask, Ravi, was Peacemaker season 1, James Gunn's HBO Max opus starring John Cena and Steve Agee, good?
It was good, yes. It was great.
Wow, great.
It was surprising as heck. I was actually just talking to someone about this. I think HBO Max has found their Mandalorian, if that makes sense, where it's like, I think now this show, at least for the next couple months, will become its like staple. You think HBO Max, you think Peacemaker, because of like the intro, because of like the show and everything that you see, and because it is now the first DCEU show and kicking off that whole thing. Because what is it? The new Batman show is going to get a HBO Max spinoff.
I think it seems like
that will become the norm.
It seems like Warner, that's their model. They're going to have like these theatrical movies and then like a HBO Max series that kind of is a companion to those movies.
Yeah, it's basically the podcast, but in video form.
Dune, for example, is doing the same thing. They're having a HBO Max series that's coming out.
That's right.
So it seems like it's very much
in
part of their
26.
Part of their yeah. Well, we'll see.
Because they just started pre-production on Dune
Part 2.
Yeah. Part 2, yeah.
The novelization of the film. That's a great thing, I think.
Yeah,
That's
really
cool.
dig into characters and themes that
Or
we couldn't.
Character
in
development,
2.5.
my favorite.
Spice.
And that's going to be it for us here.
No.
I was like, oh, did I forget something?
I just wanted to say, hey, Mom. Okay, now I'm good.
All right, now hey, Mom. Arjuna, was Peacemaker the show that the studio execs at Warner Brothers gambled on and were right about for once in their lives? Good.
It was good.
Wow, dramatic pause
It was
and
a
everything.
good show. It exceeded expectations, but now I think it's set up like a pretty good bar for season 2, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But I think, we're all expecting more from that than what we expected when we came in.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Ooh, that might be bad.
That might,
That might be
expectations.
really
I
bad.
think expectations dictates your enjoyment for a lot of stuff in general.
So I'm weird in that sense because like Star Trek Discovery is a really good example of it has started bad and then it got worse and then worse, but yet every season and mid-season break, for some reason, I think it's gonna get better.
Yeah, that one confuses me because that's in 4 seasons and like.
You
you guys,
There's like one half of a season
you
that
guys
was good.
and Krishna, who's our producer today, always like to really, make fun of how long I stuck with the Arrowverse. Like, the Star Trek shows are your Arrowverse at this point.
How long were you with Arrowverse before you gave up on the whole thing?
I watched till Crisis because
So how
that
many,
was
like,
the thing.
seasons
Yeah, how many
of,
seasons?
like,
That
how long
was
were
like
you-
the full Arrow run essentially.
how many
So it was
is
8
that?
seasons.
Okay, so as long as I don't hit a 9 season with Discovery, which I believe that show will get canned before that. Like,
I
come
thought,
on.
yeah.
You
Please,
think, but
please.
Well, I'll just have you know, I haven't watched more than 2 episodes of this season, so theoretically, I have outdone your Arrow problem. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You can't use the Arrow thing on me because I quit Discovery.
I quit.
I quit Discovery. But anyway, that is going to do it for us here on Was It Good? Michael, thank you for jumping in and being a good, person and taking the time to watch Peacemaker, unlike some people.
Yeah, it must be nice to have committed
Yeah.
co-hosts.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, I'm glad that I could do that for you and give you a taste of what it's like to have a responsible, committed third.
Before we get out of here, Christian, obviously you're producing, and you can jump on your mic and answer this question. After listening to us three knowledgeable individuals, has your desire to watch Peacemaker increased, decreased, or you never had a desire to watch that show ever?
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, I can hear myself. Yeah, this is good. It is the same. I wanted to watch it before. I want to watch it now. You guys didn't move the needle either way because I really wanted to watch it.
Damn.
All right,
All right, I don't feel like we hyped it enough.
I really wanted to watch it before.
Okay.
And it's still there. So you guys should thank pat yourselves on the back. You didn't ruin it.
That's a positive.
You didn't ruin it.
I changed my answer. I did not like this show.
Why would you do that?
I'm just kidding.
Because then now Christian would be curious.
Now his hype will go up.
We should have had a meeting before this and like really not bashed it, but like had all these good things, and then in a straight face said, "No, it's not bad." To see if
we should have gaslighted the
whole
audience. Oh yeah, we're like really positive. No, this show sucked, man.
Yeah, it was the worst.
Yeah, Book of Boba, way better. And
way
that wasn't
better.
Good.
That is the epitome of good television.
Yeah. And with that, that's going to do it for us here on the Was It Good Pod. Again, Michael, thank you for jumping in. Thank you, Christian, for jumping on and producing. As always, you can find us on Twitter at Was It Good, on Instagram and TikTok at Was It Good Pod. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wasitgood, has our full episodes and a bunch of VODs. Our website, wasitgood.info, has great blog posts. Definitely check it out and subscribe to the newsletter, which is coming soon.
Wow, you really said that.
Micro Machines.
Hello, my name is Arvin Gunkel, and here we are today, and we are going to do an auction. We got 5, we got 5, we got 10, 5.
Sold. If it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not the real thing.
Goodbye.